The views and opinions expressed in the following program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect those of KSMQ Public Service Media Incorporated or its assigns.
Welcome to Garden Connections. I'm your host, Stephanie Passenkamp. We're going to start today by visiting the Mason City Farmers Market to learn what it's like to be a vendor at the market if you've got extra vegetables to sell. We're going to get a great sweet corn recipe from Chef Larson, and we'll hear from Norrie, who's going to show us how to save seeds for next year. I hope you'll stay with us on Garden Connections. We're here at the Mason City Farmers Market, and we're going to learn about the local food movement and how people are seeking out their fresh fruits and vegetables from local growers. We're going to check out some of the vendors. Join me. One of the first vendors we're visiting is Jim Cherry from Winnebago Beeline and Gardens. Jim, you're here at the market today. Tell us a little bit about your garden.
Well, I'm involved in two things, beekeeping, and I have honey here for sale. And I also have two high tunnels. Those are hoop buildings,
right.
And I grow tomatoes, cucumbers, raspberries, and a few other things in those.
Great. How long have you been gardening?
Well, I've been beekeeping since 1983-84, and I've had the high tunnels now. One of them, this is the fourth year.
This is the fourth year. And how do you like working under the high tunnel?
Well, in the days that we've had recently, it's been very hot.
Been a little warm, hasn't it?
But it's really nice because you can work in there even in days when it would be difficult to work outside. And they provide for a very environmentally friendly situation because I use a trickle irrigation. I'm not dependent on rainfall, fortunately.
Which we haven't had much of this year.
We haven't had it this year. And the trickle irrigation uses very little water and puts it right exactly where you want to have it.
Very environmentally friendly.
Right.
So what made you decide to come to Farmers Market? Did you know that when you started those high tunnels?
I was planning to come here once I started the high tunnels. That was not the case with the beekeeping, however. And I decided that I needed to have a way to sell more of the honey that I was producing. So the farmers market became that avenue.
Became the place for it.
Right.
So you have, beekeeping sounds like it was your first love outside. Right. Tell us how you got started in beekeeping.
Well, when I moved here from Minnesota, moved to the Clear Lake area, the property that we purchased had about a half a dozen beehives on it, and
it came with it. How nice!
The people that we purchased from asked if we would like to have them leave those hives, and I said yes.
Okay.
And I happened to have a member of the congregation that I was serving who was a beekeeper, and he mentored me in that early part of it.
Very
and then
nice.
I also had an excellent mentor in Leo Stottleman, who's well known in the Clear Lake area. He's deceased now, but a great teacher.
Great. Tell us what the atmosphere is like at a farmer's market.
I like to make it a very educational experience for people. So when they come and purchase honey, I have a handout sheet that I give to them. It tells them how to care for honey and some of the benefits of it, so that people don't ruin it.
Honey what's the most common problem that people have with honey?
Most common problem is that it will crystallize, and then they think it's gone bad, and they'll throw it away.
Oh, and they shouldn't. What should they do instead?
In order to help keep it from crystallizing, they should never put it in the refrigerator, never put it in the basement. You want to keep it as far away from 54 degrees Fahrenheit, one direction or the other. So either keep it in the warmest place in the kitchen, or put it in the freezer.
You can freeze honey.
You can freeze
know
honey.
That.
It won't go solid, but it will keep it from crystallizing. If it does crystallize, you put it in a pot of warm water with the container closed, and about 120 to 130 degrees, and patience. Please don't stick it in the microwave.
Don't microwave it.
You'll boil it.
Oh, okay, and that's not good.
That's not good because you damage the flavor.
So let's take a look at some of what you've got today. You've got some beautiful raspberries.
Picked those this morning.
Yep. Those look great. And tomatoes are really big this time of year, aren't they?
They're just coming in for me. Some have had them for a longer period of time, but they're coming along nicely. And my cucumbers are getting near the end.
Coming to the end?
Yeah.
How do you know how much to bring to a farmer's market? If someone's just getting started, how much should they bring?
Well, I'm basically bringing about everything that I have at a current moment. And sometimes I sell out, and sometimes I have a little bit to carry over, but all of mine is really fresh. It's being picked that morning.
You've also got some great honey products.
Right.
Clear beeswax. Look
Yep.
at that.
Yeah, that's part of the byproduct from the beekeeping. I make the candles and provide beeswax. People wonder what you can use it for. You can use it not only for candles, but for carpenter's tool kits, sewing kits. It's a great lubricant. It's used for making cosmetics and hand lotions and lip balms.
If you have any antique dresser drawers, you can wax the bottom so they slide.
Sticky drawers, doors, windows, zippers, any of that.
Any of that stuff.
Right.
And then, of course, you've got honey.
I have honey.
Sounds great.
And that's 2012 honey. That honey came off the hives either the first part of this week or last week.
Wow. Great. Fresh as can be. And that's what Farmers Market is all about, isn't it?
That's right. Right.
Well, thank you, Jim, so much for sharing what you've got here at your stand today.
Thank you. Thanks for coming.
Well, now we're visiting with Daniel Zimmerman from Stillwater Greenhouse, and he is a regular vendor at the Mason City Farmers Market. Daniel, thanks for visiting with us.
Sure.
How long have you been coming to the Mason City Market?
I've been with this market here since it started, I think it's about 8 years.
8 years?
I don't have a definite track.
Okay, but for a while and from the very beginning.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about your place at home where you grow all these things that you bring.
It's just a little 80-acre farm out along the river, and I have a garden center in the spring, and then in the summer months I have about 40 acres of vegetables that we take to various farmers markets in Iowa.
Okay, so this isn't the only one that you attend. Where else do you
No,
go?
this isn't. We go to Waterloo, Cedar Rapids, and Des Moines. And,
Boy, you travel all over. That must
yeah.
take quite a crew to harvest and prepare everything for market.
Yeah, we have about 8 picking crew, and then me, and we always harvest in the morning till noon. Try to get all our product harvest in the morning because the field heat is out of it.
Okay.
It cools down at night, and then if you harvest in the coolness of the morning, that coolness stays in the fruit.
Right. So
if you get it
stays
in
a
the
little
afternoon,
fresher
it's hot, and then it'll just deteriorate a lot faster.
Faster. Okay. Now, with 40 acres of vegetables, are you able to irrigate, or do you simply depend on Mother Nature?
No, we irrigate.
You do. Okay.
Most everything is irrigated.
And what method do you use? Is it overhead? Do you drip tape?
Drip irrigation.
Okay.
It's the most efficient way to irrigate. Puts it right in the root zone, and sun doesn't take it away and all that. So.
Right. I see you have jams and jellies or some preserves.
Yeah,
What?
That's my wife's project where she does some of that when the peaches and the strawberries and stuff come into season. She'll preserve some, and we'll set it at our booth to sell.
So, do you see a lot of the same customers every week, or do new people come through? What's the farmers market clientele like?
I would say it's a pretty regular crowd. Now, if we're close to a busy intersection, we do have people see us by driving by.
So drop in.
The best farmers markets are in the highest traffic count intersections you can get to during the week. Some of these cities do an excellent job of having markets on a Saturday morning where it turns into a social, and those are great markets.
Those are great ones to come.
It's real hard for weekday markets anymore if they're not at a high traffic location.
Now you have quite a large stand here, and you've got 40 acres of vegetables. Many home gardeners, of course, just don't have that kind of space to raise things. How big does a person have to be in order to be a vendor at the farmers market?
Oh, you can probably do it on a 50 by 50. You know, it doesn't have to be big. You might grow, you might specialize in one thing.
Okay.
A little bit like a baker can bake out of his house.
Sure.
She may specialize in breads or something like that.
Right. Okay.
And a vegetable vendor can do the same thing.
So they can
You
become
would
a
need a whole
specialist in
bunch of
cucumbers.
those. Yeah, you could just grow green beans or something like that.
That was your specialty.
I think the best way would be to do a good job, whatever you do.
What kind of advice do you have for shoppers at farmers market? What should they be asking their growers about the products that they're raising to make sure that they get just what they're looking for?
The shoppers that I see that are concerned about it are asking what the variety name is and stuff like that. I think that's a good way to make sure that you're not buying from a jockey or something like that.
And what is a jockey?
A jockey would be buying it from somebody else and setting up and selling it again.
Okay.
He's just a retailer.
And sometimes those are permitted at farmers market. Is that correct?
A lot of farmers market, they aren't.
Okay.
But there's some that do.
So a good question to ask if you're in the region and you're at a farmer's market. That's maybe something that you want to check.
Ask them. I think the concerned customer asks about the farm and that kind of stuff. And I think that's great because it gives me the opportunity to share that, yeah, we are producers and
you're the guy taking care of it.
Yeah, we took out all the middlemen and there it is and here you are. So.
What's your favorite part about being a farmer's market vendor?
I enjoy the people because I think when you figure out people, it's fun.
When you figure them out, let me know.
I don't have them all figured out.
Daniel, thank you so much for sharing some time with us today.
You're welcome.
Well, we've had a great time visiting the Mason City Farmers Market. I encourage you to check out your town's farmers market and see all the great fruits, vegetables, baked goods, and other items that might be for sale. Stay tuned for more Garden Connections.
Hi, I'm Chef Stephen Larson. Welcome to my kitchen at Quarter Quarter Restaurant in Harmony, Minnesota. As much as I love corn on the cob, there are other great things that you can do with sweet corn this time of year. Like this next recipe we're going to do for sweet corn griddle cakes with barbecue pork. This uses both fresh corn that we're going to cut off the cob and also a corn flour called masa harina. Now you can find this in any grocery store that's got any sort of Mexican ingredients in it. This is used for making corn tortillas and tamales. So the first thing we need to do is make our batter. So we're going to start off with some all-purpose flour, some of the masa harina, a couple of tablespoons of sugar because that will really bring out the nice sweetness of the corn, some baking powder, baking soda, a good pinch of salt, and we'll mix that all together in the bowl just to make sure that that leavening and the salt gets incorporated well. Next thing we'll do is we will add our vegetable oil to that. You can use corn oil or any light vegetable oil works fine. You could also melt butter if you wanted to. 2 large eggs and a 1.5 cups of buttermilk. Now you could use regular milk for this too. I like the tartness of the buttermilk. Goes well with the sweetness of the corn. We're going to whisk that together just until you get something that looks like pancake batter. This isn't rocket science, it's very easy. And just like a regular pancake batter, a few small lumps are permissible. The key is to not overmix it. Okay, that looks good to me. Now we need to get some of our corn. So I've got a bit cut here already, but then I also want to show you how to easily cut corn off of fresh ears. Now the best way to do this is to just barely take the ends off. Of course you'll need a sharp knife for that. And then cut the cob in half. Then you've got something very easy to cut off. And it doesn't come up really high in the air and cause the corn to go everywhere. All right, so that's all the extra I will need for this. So that's going to make about 1 cup total. Now don't throw these away. These actually, we call them corn bones in the restaurant here, and we make a great vegetable soup stock out of them. Okay, we'll stir in the corn kernels. And then using a 2-ounce ladle, we'll cook these just like you cook pancakes. just a little bit more. So these I'm going to serve with some beautiful roasted barbecue pork. So we'll get our plate set up here. I have some of that pork in the pan here all ready to go, and I'm going to garnish it with some of our homemade roasted red bell pepper barbecue sauce. Now you could use any barbecue sauce that you like. Your favorite store brand would be fine. As far as the barbecue pork itself, again, I'm using homemade, but you could certainly use a store brand if you wish. All right. So we'll plate our cakes. We'll top each with a nice little mound of that barbecued pork. And give it a nice little shot of red bell pepper barbecue sauce. So there we have it, sweet corn griddle cakes with barbecue roasted pork, because there's nothing better than eating fresh from your garden.
Thanks, Chef Larson. Another great recipe, as always. Well, now we're going to talk about seed saving, and our special guest is Norrie MacIlraith. And Norrie is a master gardener, but also a former host of Garden Connections. Norrie, thanks for coming back to the program.
Thank you for inviting me.
Are there some plants that are more suitable for seed saving? If someone has never done this before and we want to help them get started and give it a try the first year, what are some of the easier varieties?
Well, I have some examples here. Purple cornflowers are perennials, but they put out a lot of blooms every year, and those blooms go to seeds, and they have these pricklies on them. And if that breaks off, an animal may transfer it around the yard to somewhere.
So is
but down inside, the seeds are inside here, and they'll just all fall out as you work the seed head.
And that's one of the plant's design. This would stick in the fur of some critter, wouldn't it?
Right, so this is animal transfer normally.
So when you have a flower like this, what is this little piece, the seed? Can't even get it off my thumb.
Yep, that's the seed.
So sometimes
and look how small that is.
Yeah.
Another plant, it's an annual plant, Cleome, also known as the spider flower. It puts out these pods after the flower blooms, and inside the pod is where you'll find the seeds. The pod splits, and then the seeds are broadcast in your yard, and you'll have them all over your yard. However, if you want to collect them, I select the heads that I want to keep, and I put a stocking over the head.
Okay, just a nylon stocking.
Make sure there are no runs or holes in your nylon, and that'll hold the head of the flower, and it'll finish maturing, and the seeds will mature and fall into
and
here.
Just drop right in there. Because that is the key. You have to be patient when it comes to seed saving.
Right.
You have to wait for, in this case, when these flowers, this pod has to be dry.
Yes.
And
you have to wait for it to be
spent.
matured.
Completely spent.
Yeah.
Yep. And sometimes the seeds are incredibly tiny.
Yes.
Look at this one.
Yes. And these are your poppy seeds, and I know you like poppy seeds on some of your muffins and things.
Goods,
But they're contained inside, and there are little tiny holes here, and the wind will transfer those out by shaking it like a rattle and shake those seeds out. But you can see how tiny they are. And again, if you want to save them, nylon stocking works great.
That is the key. All right.
However, when you want to go collecting other seeds, a paper bag is good for just putting the whole head in and letting it shake down.
Okay, and this would be after it's already dried on the stalk, and then you would...
For instance, this columbine, the seeds are still attached here, and if you turn that inside and then just roll them off into the bag, that works just wonderfully.
Those are almost kind of apple seed shaped. Oops, we lost one.
Before you store them, you have to take them out and put them out to dry so they're thoroughly dry.
What happens if they're not dry?
They often pick up moisture and become moldy.
Okay.
And then you cannot use them.
Then they won't germinate when you need them.
No. But the other thing some of them need before you can germinate them is what's called a stratification, which is a wintering over or a cold spell.
Okay.
So depending upon the type of seed, you'll have to put it in the refrigerator for 2 to 3 months.
Okay.
Or...
And that long? You can't just pop it in the refrigerator for a couple weeks and call it good?
No. No, it needs like a season.
Okay.
The other thing to do with these types of annuals and perennials is to broadcast the seeds directly in the fall where you want them next spring.
If you do that, what are the chances that the seeds will get eaten by rodents outside, or things that will burrow and actually be looking for food in the winter time?
Percentage will.
Okay.
But you'll still have plenty.
But typically you'll have enough.
You'll still have plenty.
So let's say you had a poppy and this is what you collected from it. How many new plants could you get from the seeds in one of these?
Oh, up to 1,000.
1,000. Wow, that's a lot.
Depending upon the size of the head. There are lots and lots of seeds in there.
So plants are very generous when it comes to reproduction.
Generous. And they know that the environment's going to play havoc, so they go on the percentage that they can get.
Throw it all out.
Yeah. A high percentage of seed for a few plants.
So these are some flower examples, plus the melons that you brought us. You can also do the same with vegetables, correct? Couple different
but your vegetables are a little bit different in that you have to go. All of these have to be past maturity for the seeds to develop.
Right. So I went out in the garden this morning and I found a pea that is past prime. These are supposed to be flat ones. So I found the oldest one I could come up with, and so there are little peas in here. However, what you're saying is, even though this is not the prime for this variety, it is still not suitable. Oops, he ran away.
It's not ready.
Suitable for curing and preparing for next year.
No.
This will not germinate even if I let it dry.
Right. And if we can refer to the seed anatomy, the seeds themselves have an outer coat that protects them, and that's called the testa. And that coat will protect that seed until such time as it's in the right environment to germinate.
So I'd have to leave this pea pod on that plant until it turned brown and dry. And then make sure it was dry before I put
before you pick it.
Yep. How do I know which ones need to go in the refrigerator and which ones don't?
Well, there's a place that you can go, seedsavers.org, and it has a whole different chart for each type of plant that you might want to be saving, and tells you whether or not it needs that cold time.
Okay. Great resource. And again, lots of other things. This is a wax bean that I picked this morning. Again, not nearly ready, but the seed is clearly in there. And when this matures, it will be brown and dry.
Now, with a number of beans, before you go to plant that, because it has a real hard surface, this side that was attached is called the hilum, and you have to put a little nick in this so moisture can get to the inside and start the germination.
We are going to have you demonstrate what to do with tomatoes. People love tomatoes, and especially when you get a great variety. I love this one. This is a Rose de Berne, is what it's called, and I picked them a few days ago, and then I picked the squishy ones, knowing you were going to show us this, and it's already actually started to mold. Is this going to hurt the process?
It's not going to hurt the seeds at all. No.
Okay, because a tomato will take forever to dry, and it doesn't end up like a bean or a pea. It doesn't have a shell. So you can actually...
But it's past prime, and so if you slice that open first, Stephanie, and then I always use a sieve, and you can... The seeds, a lot of people take all the seeds out before they eat a tomato, and they just eat the rest of the pulp. But this will just come out like this.
Can you just squeeze it?
And, well, you can squeeze it too, so that will come loose. And that material with that gelatin around it protects the seeds while
it's all gooey,
while it's growing and developing.
But they're in there.
They're in there. So now you have to pour some water over the sieve and get rid of all of that material around the seeds. And you can just use cool water and brush that stuff down through the sieve. And then you're left with the seeds. And you'll turn those out onto a paper towel and let them dry.
How long would it take them to dry?
It'll be about 3 or 4 days.
Okay. And will they stick to the paper towel? You have to pick them off then?
Yes.
So even though some of that little gel is on there.
Or if you have a flat sieve, you can put them so they'll air dry from both sides then. But you have to get rid of all this plant material from around them. And then let them dry.
So seed saving really is a fairly simple, I mean that took us
It's very simple, just keep yourself true to the plant that you're going to be targeting to save.
Right.
You might want to go through your garden ahead of time and select and tag the plant, the particular item that you're going to save for seeds, so that nobody destroys it on you in the process.
Right.
But,
all right. Well, certainly very straightforward, simple to do, sometimes requires a little patience. Norrie, thank you so much for showing us how to make it work.
You're welcome.
All right, well, I hope you'll give seed saving a try at home. Thank you for joining us today on Garden Connections. I look forward to seeing you next week.